Nigerians are facing one of the West African nation's worst economic crises in years, triggered by surging inflation, the result of monetary policies that have pushed the currency to an all-time low against the dollar. The situation has provoked anger and protests across the country. With a population of more than 210 million people, Nigeria is not just Africa's most populous country, but also the continent's largest economy. Its gross domestic product is driven mainly by services such as information, technology and banking, followed by manufacturing and processing businesses, and then agriculture. The challenge is that the country is far from sufficient for Nigeria's booming population, relying heavily on imports to meet the daily needs of its citizens, from cars to cutlery. So it is easily affected by external shocks such as the parallel foreign exchange market that determines the price of goods and services. Nigeria's economy is heavily dependent on crude oil, its largest foreign exchange earner. When crude prices plunged in 2014, authorities used its scarce foreign reserves to try to stabilize the Naira amid multiple exchange rates. The government also shut down the land borders to encourage local production and limited access to the dollar for importers of certain items. Shortly after taking the reins of power in May 2023, President Ahmed Tinubu took bold steps to fix the ailing economy and attract investors. He announced the end of costly gas subsidies, which the government said were no longer sustainable. Meanwhile, the country's multiple exchange rates were unified to allow market forces to determine the rate of the local naira against the dollar, which in effect devalued the currency. So the more than 200% increase in gas prices caused by the end of the gas subsidy started to have a knock-on effect on everything else, especially because locals rely heavily on gas powered generators to light their households and run their businesses. In recent years, the naira to dollar market in Nigeria has so far been liberalized twice, the first in June 2016 and the second in June 2023. To liberalize a currency is to let the forces of demand and supply of the currency solely determine the value of the currency. The technical term for this in economics is called floating. For instance, if Nigerians rush to buy the dollar more than Americans are rushing to buy the naira, the value of the dollar will go up at the expense of the value of the naira. In other words, the value of the naira will fall. Similarly, if there is more demand for the naira by Americans and less demand for the dollar by Nigerians, the value of the naira will rise. It will become stronger. The fall of the naira is fast diminishing the international purchasing power of the currency and consequently buying strength of Nigerian residents. For instance, as nearly as 10 years ago, Nigerians schooling or buying foreign education services abroad in the United Kingdom needed roughly 2 million naira to pay a tuition fee of 10,000 euro. Today, they will need close to 20 million naira to pay the same school fees, a tenfold increase. Removing fuel subsidy and floating the naira simultaneously was pure suicide on the part of President Tinubu. He should have held off on floating the naira until fuel prices stabilized. In a country that ties everything to fuel price and the price of dollars, removing the two at the same time was bound to create excruciating hardship for Nigerians. No wonder the crime rate has spiked in some parts of the country. Similarly, in Nigeria, you can't leave things to market forces. It's a place where everyone wants to take advantage of his fellow citizens. There is absolutely no price control. At the heart of Nigeria's persistent economic troubles is its unhealthy dependency on oil exports and import of refined fuel and goods. With little local manufacturing, Nigerians are captive to the whims of global oil prices and the exchange rate. Falling oil revenues. In 8 years, between 2007 and 2014, Nigeria earned over 340 billion US dollars in oil revenues. This figure has fallen to $110 billion, more than 3 times in the recent 8 years between 2015 and 2012, thus shrinking the nation's capacity to pull in more dollars into its economic system. Second, in the late 2015, under the regime of Muhammadu Buhari, the then government, through the central bank, activated capital control measures such as shutting out access to foreign currency withdrawals and imposing limits on how much Nigerians can withdraw using foreign ATMs. These interventions did not pay off as the currency further depreciated. As a result, factories that could not obtain dollars to import raw materials and capital goods shut down and eliminated tens of thousands of jobs. By mid-2016, the economy had fallen into a recession. Tinubu, meanwhile, has directed the release of food items such as cereals from government reserves, among other palliatives, to help cushion the effect of the hardship. The government also said it plans to set up a commodity board to help regulate the soaring prices of goods and services. The situation is at its worst in conflict zones in northern Nigeria, where farming communities are no longer able to cultivate what they eat as they are forced to flee violence. Pockets of protests have broken out in past weeks, but security forces have been quick to impede them, even making arrests in some cases. In the economic hub of Lagos and other major cities, there are fewer cars and more legs on the road as commuters are forced to trek to work. The prices of everything from food to household items increase daily.